Welcome back, everybody, to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. Lorenzo Fon here, sitting with
Kevin Horde.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. You know, another day in the Midwest. Got our, I like to call our Midwest Coast podcast going on here. So, talking Clone Wars today. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, we'll be talking about the episode titled Corruption, which is Season 3, Episode 5.
We had a little time jump.
Yes. We're jumping from the last episode was the season finale of Season 2. And we're skipping ahead a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
The air date on this one was October 8th, 2010.
Which means that it has been 6 months.
Yes.
6 months in calendar time from Lethal Trackdown to Corruption.
Mm-hmm.
So,
the fortune cookie for this one is the challenge of hope is to overcome corruption.
And you know the question.
Right.
Who said it?
This is one where definitely, like, I had a guess, and then watching the episode definitely solidified it. But it still kind of is a split to me between Padmé and Satine.
I totally picked Padmé.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I can go with Padmé for sure.
Mm-hmm. Like, I wanted to lean toward Leia, but it's a little bit too... It's a little too on the nose for Leia, I think.
Right.
So, yeah, I definitely went with Padmé.
Padmé it is.
All right. Episode over.
We got that decided. Jumping into the newsreel.
Mm-hmm.
This one isn't our typical previously on, but it does kind of go over some things we have seen before regarding the previous Mandalore arc. But it's kind of filling in new information as well.
Yeah, you know what I thought was kind of interesting here is that the visuals and the voiceover don't necessarily match. Like,
no.
They were talking about, the narrator is talking about, like, the black market, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's going on visually is that episode Lightsaber Lost, where the Yoda analog, I don't even remember what his name is. I should have wrote it down.
I know what you're talking about, but
the old Yoda dog with the cane and Ahsoka are in, like, I don't know, some of the lower levels of Coruscant, which has nothing to do with anything black market. They're looking for Ahsoka's lightsaber.
Right.
So,
especially not on Mandalore.
Right.
But I guess it's the closest thing they could have gotten visually, but
I'm not really sure. There was some stuff from, like, the previous Mandalore arc with like the Mandalore plot and maybe Duchess of Mandalore. Definitely not Voyage of Temptation, but like that kind of group of episodes that came out. There were some visuals from that. But yeah, like my synopsis that I wrote down for newsreel was Mandalore is left high and dry after their neutrality, and Padmé goes to try to help. And the capital city
basically there are no supplies coming in, and that is the issue. In them remaining neutral, nobody's really helping them out either, in any case. So that's kind of the gist that we get from the newsreel.
For sure.
So, right. And then when we get to the episode proper, basically, Padmé is showing up to the capital city, Sundari.
Yep.
And she's greeted by Satine, and pretty quickly they hop in a speeder, and Padmé kind of receives an official welcome, but then Satine talks about wanting to give her a more grand welcome.
Yeah, Padmé is kind of like I don't know if I'd say she's complaining, but at first she's like, oh, well, this isn't like the Mandalore that I've heard of, you know?
Right.
And Satine's like, no, I wanted to greet you personally before everyone else could. And then they go through, like, a tunnel. And then there's, like, later it's referred to as, like, a parade. But really it's just the two of them, like, in a speeder. But there's, like, thousands of fucking people. And it's either snowing or there's some confetti. And these people are so happy. And everyone's cheering and, like, fist pumping in the air and, like, celebrating.
Right.
My question
it's
is...
Yeah.
Why? Are they celebrating the fact that the Duchess is, like, presenting herself before the people, or because Padmé, some senator, is there?
I assumed it was because Padmé was there. So I assumed it was, like, an announced procession sort of thing, as, say, if the Pope were to visit the United States.
Yeah, but she's not the Pope. Like, I would totally get it maybe if it was, like, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine.
Right.
But
yeah, it's like a random parliament member from England, from Great Britain visiting the United States.
Right.
Yeah. But, you know, depending on the fanfare they want to throw, what's weird is just that Padmé has no knowledge of this. You know, that's what I found weird, is that, you know, even if you had some sort of dignitary visiting, and, you know, maybe it might not be a big thing, because, like, you know, governors of United States will visit foreign countries to try and make specific deals, and you know, like the governor of Michigan will visit Japan to try and get, like, Toyota to put more car factories in Michigan, because, you know, they can kind of sell, like, hey, we already do this, like, we have a lot of factory workers that would love to work for Toyota if you put a plant here.
Right.
You know,
this is our thing. We can we can be mutually beneficial here.
Right. So, you know, even in cases like that where it's like it's not the prime minister showing up to Michigan, but, you know, there might be some other official, and then they'll still kind of throw some random fanfare. I don't think it's going to be thousands of people showing up all the same.
And that's not even what she's doing.
Right.
She's like...
They're just driving down the street.
She's like... Padmé showed up because, like, the planet is under stress because of all these things, right? So she's like, oh, well, I'll go to see if I can help. It doesn't even sound like it's an officially Republic-sanctioned thing. Like, right. She's just going because as like a humanitarian effort. I feel like this is like Angelina Jolie going to, like, Zimbabwe to do like a walkthrough of some town or village
to adopt another child.
Right.
Right. So, yeah, I agree. Like,
but,
this
like,
is just
the whole
confusing. And
frickin' planet showed up.
Right. And especially because it immediately flies in the face of the newsreel where, like, they talk about how rough life is, and yet everybody has time to, I don't know, leave work or school or whatever and go to this processional fanfare event.
Parade.
Yeah. With
the one
ticker tape.
The one
it's
speeder parade.
Right. Like, because, yeah, like, it's a literal ticker tape parade, essentially, because there's shit flying everywhere.
Yeah, is that supposed to be, like, celebratory
I assumed
confetti?
It was... Yeah, I assumed
snowing?
it was some sort of confetti and not something naturally occurring.
That's a lot of fucking confetti.
It's a weird world. Here's the other thing that confused me as well. Right before the reveal of the people waiting for the processional, Satine mentions that she wants to show off a new Mandalore. And
I
then
had that note as well.
And then within the same breath, like, Padmé has one quick comment, and then Satine immediately after goes, well, we are a traditional people. Like, wait, what?
Right. That's not a question that I had, but that's a good point to bring up. Like, new Mandalore or traditional Mandalore? Like, which is it?
Right. Like, we're a people of tradition, but this is the new Mandalore.
But this makes it
But
sound
we're gonna-
like
yeah.
this also makes it sound like Duchess Satine invited Padmé there. But the newsreel makes it sound like Padmé went there on her own accord to try to help. Right.
No. The newsreel does say that Satine called in Padmé.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that there was like a favor, or there was some reaching out officially that happened.
Why? Did they have no previous relationship? Right. Like,
No,
why would she
the
reach
news-
out to
the new-
Padmé?
The newsreel states that quote, Satine has called upon her friend Padmé Amidala.
Right.
So they know each other
Weird.
and they're friends. We just haven't seen it, but they seem to know each other well. Like, this is not their first meeting at all.
I will bring something up later that agrees with that point.
Yeah.
Although, that is not the way that I read the beginning of this episode.
Yeah. So anyways, moving on. We jump to a loading dock on Mandalore where we see a ship pull in or some,
Ominous ship lands.
Yeah. Some ominous ship. Some folks start pulling some stuff out onto the dock, and a custom officer shows up, and these folk, which are Mugen smugglers.
Yep. Did you find the name of the head Mugen?
I did not.
Tiva. And
Which is
interesting because the beverage that they have is tea.
yes. So they are carrying basically a giant pallet of tea. They immediately bribe the customs officer because he's like, there was nothing scheduled today. And they're like, of course there was. Clink, 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 clink.
Yeah, it
into
must have
your
been an
hand.
oversight.
Right. So, we continue on with the Mugen, and we see what they're trying to do with these, this pallet of beverage, of Mandalorian soda, I guess I will refer to it as.
So it is a tea. It's like a It's like a carbonated tea.
Okay, so yeah, we'll
That soda
get to
if
that.
you like. That's fine.
Yeah, we'll get to more about it later because I'm just confused about its purpose on this planet, sort of.
I am confused about a lot of this this situation. So
Right.
when you're ready to talk about it, you let me know. I've got some details, and
It'll be more towards midway.
sure.
When I want to talk about the tea soda deal. But anyways, what the Mugans are doing is that they will take this tea and they will dilute it with something called slaben. Slaben. They're basically trying to water it down as to save money and sell for profit, I guess. But we get a dude basically calling out like, hey, isn't slaben toxic? And then the Mugans are like, not if you mix it right. And clearly, yeah.
You're so close to so many things that I want to talk about, but I'm going to reserve until you're ready.
All right. Yep. Let's move on, and then we can have one big drink discussion. So then we cut back to Padmé and Satine, and they are sitting in a council meeting, and the council people are all kind of arguing about their place and whether or not it's cool to depend on smugglers to try and bring in supplies because they don't want to break neutrality by depending on either Republic or Separatists for supplies.
And this is called the ruling council, and our good old buddy Prime Minister Almec is there, kind of in charge of this meeting, but not really.
Yeah. Does he have a seat? Because, like, he's kind of just standing there walking around.
I think he does, but I think what he's doing is he's, like, orating in the middle of this group of people. And
because we get an overhead establishing shot, and it just looked like every seat was full, but I wasn't looking that closely.
I didn't.
But
I did not.
I was
look
like, did
either.
he?
And aren't Duchess Satine and Padmé, like, sitting off to the side? Like, they're not included in this little circle.
They're not in the circle. They're kind of so, like, it's a almost enclosed circle. You know, like it's open at one end. It's kind of meeting.
It's an open circle.
Yeah. And then there's a couple of steps that go up, and then Satine is sitting in literally a higher position.
Mm-hmm. She has the high ground.
Just kind of, she has the high ground by 2 or 3 steps, and she's just watching this whole conversation go down, and Almec is the one leading it. So she is just sitting back, and Padmé is oddly kind of just standing next to Satine.
Oh, I thought she was sitting next to her. Poor Padmé.
Nope, she's not seated. So this is why it's a weird small issue, but the issue of chairs is weird to me. Like, they threw a ticker tape parade for Padmé, but can't get her a damn seat to watch a meeting.
That's why I'm wondering if it was for her.
The ticker tape?
Yeah.
I like I said, I have many questions about just the visual storytelling aspects of this, where they skip over a lot of other shit. So, But anyways, the ruling council argue back and forth, and there does seem to be agreement that that there's a lot of corruption dealing with the smugglers trying to bring in supplies, and the disagreement seems to come from whether it's justified to deal with smugglers, because technically that's illegal.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it's hard to tell, like, what status some of these people are. Like, you would assume that they're all, like, politicians. But there's one guy that verbally debates. I was going to say attacks, but that's not the right word. Verbally debates with another woman, and he essentially says to her, like, no, like, we have to deal in the black market because that's the only way that we can thrive financially as a business. And what do you care? Like, if it's black market or fair trade, like, you're going to make your money anyway. And then she gets all pissed and she's like, I despise you for saying that, and I despise that comment. And then everybody stands up and turns to the person next to them and just starts arguing with them. So, being the ruling council, I guess maybe the Mandalorians are forward-thinking enough to maybe these aren't elected positions. Maybe they are. I don't know. But it seems to be comprised of multiple levels of the socio-economical class, which is nice.
Right. Yeah.
But, you know, they have diverse representation, but obviously they can't agree and or get along because everybody everybody has, I won't say their own agenda, but their own necessity when it comes to success of themselves and their represented populace, I guess I would say. So, this conversation definitely devolves quickly into just bickering.
Right.
Like, they're not even arguing, they're just bickering with each other, and this happens a couple of times.
Yeah, they're all talking over each other to the point where Satine basically stands up, has enough, and just tells everybody, be quiet, everybody leave, we're gonna take a breather, everybody cool down, we'll get back to this, we're not solving anything today. And that's basically all that we get from that.
It's bicker session, And there's literally an aside between Satine and Padmé. And Satine's like, hey, Padmé, like, if you think you're so fucking great and you can calm these people down, like, have at it. So Padmé goes in and talks to them, and everybody's quiet for a moment. And then they're like, I disagree. Rabble, 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 rabble. Bitch, bitch,
Right.
bitch, bitch. And it immediately devolves back into arguing.
More
and,
yelling. Yeah.
Olmec tries...
I will say... Go ahead.
Olmec tries to diffuse the situation, and Satine just sitting back, and eventually is like, enough's enough. You guys are done. Get out of here.
Everybody out. Yeah. Before this all starts, there is a funny, clever little line that's kind of thrown in where Olmec is describing the situation, and it's clearly for the audience viewing the episode, because then the first councilwoman is like, yeah, I know that's what's happening on this planet, obviously. So that's just a small throwaway that I just thought it just tickled me a little bit, because you just got to throw this information somehow. But yeah, it's one of those things where, like, if you're on the council, there's no way you're missing that information. But anyways, it's after this scene we see Padmé and Satine at dinner, right?
Well, we cut back to the smugglers first, and then this is where the Slaven and the dilution is talked about.
Okay.
Then we go to dinner, and my description was Satine puts on a sexy dinner with short hair Padmé. I don't know if her hair's like tucked into her collar, but it's definitely like it's a different. Long 20s bob. Right.
I was curious about the hairstyle in both. They are both wearing headpieces. To me, this dinner scene didn't do much for me, but I do have to make a comment on the outfits because it will come back later in the weirdest fucking way.
Okay.
But they are wearing something very specific to this dinner.
Sure.
Satine has a headband sort of thing, and on the back side there's kind of like these wings that come off the back of the head.
Yeah, I think we talked about it before, and I think we decided that was like it was like coral or shell or something like that.
Yeah. But the way this one is designed, it reminds me of a lot of I don't know why this is my specific reference for it, but a lot of period Japanese fighting games. So think like Virtua Fighter style. I mean, Virtua Fighter is still like the game takes place in modern times, but like any of the characters that are modeled after more traditional Japanese dress.
Okay.
The female characters always have just a lot of headgear happening.
Okay.
And especially the way her hair then flows, her bangs like flow over the front of her headband as well.
Okay.
Just reminded me of that, and I don't know if that was purposeful or not.
Probably.
And Padmé also has headgear in. Hers is more interesting too, because hers are kind of just two seen half cups that are sitting on her head.
Yeah, we have seen hers before.
Mm-hmm.
It is
with that hairstyle or no?
Yes, with that hairstyle.
I don't recall that hairstyle at all.
It's like her hair becomes like a breasted bodice.
Right.
It's weird.
Yeah. The other thing I'll note
There's
in
like
this scene too,
golden frame that like holds it.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I'll note in this scene too, and it just caught my attention. I didn't do a hard study on it, but and it's definitely part of the animation style, but this one definitely just seemed more rushed because neither of their hair seemed to have any life to it. It definitely was like a Lego brick that was placed on. And I note this because we see their hair later on, and jumping forward just a little bit, Satine has the same bangs, and her bangs move later on, but I didn't.
Oh,
yeah, but I did not notice that moving in this scene at all. Like,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Well,
so
you know why?
We'll get
because this scene is building some sexual tension, and everything is very, very stiff.
Super tense. Hair included. Lego brick of hair, as I will call it. But yeah, so that's what I got out of the dinner scene, was just the aesthetics of it all. They kind of just basically discuss what happened at the council, right? And the state of Mandalore.
Yeah, and Satine asked Padmé what she thinks of the war. Padmé basically says that she wishes that she could become neutral, and she's kind of jealous of Satine.
Right.
And then Satine basically calls out that there's corruption at all levels, and then is like, hey, let's quit talking about that stuff. There's a new hospital opening, so let's go there tomorrow.
So they do, and as soon as they get there, there's a bunch of sick children. Children who are just not feeling well, and they have clearly been poisoned with something. They just don't know what.
It is described as an outbreak, and my first question is, if you are cut off from trade routes and most of your supplies have to rely on black market methods, how the fuck you opening a new hospital?
Yeah, this is part of that thing Satine said at the beginning, like, welcome to a new Mandalore.
And
like,
what is the new Mandalore? What is the difference?
That was my question too.
This Mandalore and the last time we saw Mandalore.
As soon as she said it, that's what I was trying to figure out. I'm like, okay, am I going to see something crazy different in this episode compared to previous episodes we've been on Mandalore? But there's nothing that stands out to me.
Is it like the officially neutral Mandalore, because they were officially neutral before?
Right.
This is just the one.
I understand
like,
nothing.
This is like Mandalore after there was like some assassination attempts. I have no idea.
Yeah. Right. So I don't
after
understand.
They know Death Watch is like an active fucking thing again.
Right. It's not like the bad example reference to make, but it's not like after 9/11 we're all like, this is new United States. Like, no.
Welcome to Newer York.
Right, yeah. New York, baby. Futurama style.
I prefer Newer York.
But, anyways.
New York 2.0? I don't know.
Anyways, so the only clue that they have to try and figure out what is going on with the children is that all the children who are sick came from the same school. So they're guessing it's something they ate.
Yep.
Satine and Padmé do a quick check-in with Almec.
Yep.
Here is why I brought up the clothing of dinner. So dinner, they're wearing nice outfits for this, formal, and yet there's only two of them dinner situation, dinner amongst friends. Because, when you hang out with your buddy, you dress up for every dinner. They go to the hospital in...
I'm behind the times, man. I don't do that.
They go to the hospital in pretty standard clothing. Padmé's kind of in her, like, flying gear. She's wearing, like, a vest and just a normal shirt underneath.
Right.
In the one scene with Almec, they're back in their dinner wear, headdress and all. So then they talk to Almec to inform all the going on to the hospital. Almec is suspecting that Death Watch is behind it. Satine says it can't be Death Watch because they usually just go after Satine, right?
Yeah, she says that they either come after her or other political figures, but not the kids.
Right. Yeah, they wouldn't go after just random citizens.
Death Watch isn't that terrible to go after kids, man.
Right. So then, with this meeting out of the way, they then head to the school to try and figure out what's going on. They are back in their streetwear.
There is one thing that happens in between.
What is that?
It is the scene where Satine and Padme meet with like all of the royal guards, I think is what they're called.
Oh, right.
And so my note is Satine calls for her guards to investigate in this clandestine operation. And I was like, what better way to be secretive than send these dudes out in like full warrior / overly ornate samurai garb to be secret,
intense armor, right?
About
and it's like a
gathering?
good dozen of them. Yeah, it's a good dozen
of
them too. That So I agree. She was trying to keep it small and like secretive, but no.
She's like, you're the only ones that I can trust, and you must go and gather information for me. And I'm like, that dude's helmet has like flares off the cheeks that are wider than his shoulders.
Right.
He's gonna stick out in a crowd. But then
New Mandalore. It's the new Mandalore.
That is true. Then Padme and Satine go and investigate at the school, and
where they change outfits.
The doctor is there.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, we checked all the food. Food's good.
The water is also clear. Like they've checked the water.
Uh-huh.
But then Padme and Satine notice that all the kids have the tea.
Uh-huh.
So this is my question. The doctor or the superintendent, they're talking to the superintendent, says that the school does have an outside vendor to give the tea.
They're talking to the doctor. The doctor is the one that says that. The superintendent just introduces them to the doctor, and then the doctor is the one that says everything after that. And he says, oh, well, that's, like unsanctioned drink. It comes from an outside vendor. It's not on the school's menu, essentially. And then some poor kid walks by, and he's like, hey, I need to borrow this, and just swipes the kid's fucking tea.
I'm like,
which is
I made a note about that too.
It's hilarious.
Like, just go to the fucking kitchen and grab a fresh one. Don't steal a kid's drink.
Steal a kid's drink. He's like, oh man.
Now the only reason I'm confused about this tea situation is that, and the fact that it's an outside vendor and it's not menu approved, is that these kids are young. You know, it'd be one thing if they're like high schoolers and they might have some sort of self-decision-making abilities.
Okay.
You know, like my high school had like Gatorade and Coke vending machines, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have that at like my elementary school, which these kids look on like the older end of that or middle school.
Okay. Right? I've got kids, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
My oldest kid has gone through elementary, middle. She's in high school, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, even in the younger grades now, there are so many fucking options when it comes to lunch. Like, and there's not like, your kid doesn't take like $2 in lunch money anymore, right? You have like, most schools have like a card, and parents put money on the card, and then it's like it's essentially like a dedicated debit card for like lunch or whatever.
Right.
And my daughter in like second or third grade was like burning through fucking money, and we're like, what the fuck are you doing? But she would get like, because there's like the tray lunch, or there's like grab and go, which is like, you know, a salad and a fucking chicken sandwich or something. But then there's also like, there was also 2 or 3 like refrigerator units that had milk and juice and tea and like other shit in it, and then there was like another thing that had like desserts in it. So she would get like either grab and go or the lunch tray, and then she would go get a drink, and then she would go get a dessert. And like, I'm pretty sure, because lunch was like 25 minutes long, and I'm pretty sure she spent 15 minutes walking around like buying shit and
Right.
10 minutes or 5 minutes talking to her friends, 5 minutes starting to eat, and then like half of the shit went to waste anyway. But there are so many options for kids nowadays when it comes to schools and lunches.
Yeah.
I don't understand it either. But
like I said, in the higher grades that makes sense. Like I would give it even to middle schoolers, but like 6th grade and under, like no. Or 5th maybe and under, depending,
I went to a private school K through 8.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so for 9 years I was at the same school, and you had 2.5 options. Option 1, bring your lunch. Option 2, eat whatever the lunch tray was.
Right.
Option 2.5, if you didn't want like the main course, you got a peanut butter sandwich. Not peanut butter and jelly, peanut butter.
Just straight peanut butter.
So if you didn't want, if it was burrito day and you didn't want a burrito, you got a peanut butter sandwich on your lunch tray, and then you got a scoop of corn and a scoop of applesauce. And as far as drinks went, it was like 2% milk, chocolate milk, or orange juice, and that was it.
Right.
Nowadays, way different.
Yeah, see, that's just absolutely nuts to me to discover. But all the same, that's what I'm trying to figure out without the smuggler's funny business. Like, what is this tea? And if they weren't smuggling it in, is this like a tea that's mass produced? Can you get it other places other than Mandalore? Are they drinking this on Coruscant?
You can get it other places other than Mandalore, and I have notes on that, and whenever you want to get into it, I will let you know.
Go for it right now.
Okay.
This is a good time.
Can we talk about the tea in general and the smuggling operation?
Yeah.
So these guys, they're Muggins, right?
Yeah, the Muggins.
The Muggins show up with pallets full of this tea, which is apparently light enough for like somebody to pick up and carry around, which is fucking crazy because that shit should be heavy as all get out. But their plan is to essentially do like a cocaine baking soda cut or something. I don't really know. They're going to cut it with Slaben. By all accounts, all through this episode, Slaben is non-toxic.
Right.
If you read up on Wikipedia, apparently this was like a bad batch of Slaben is what the problem was. Because they mixed it in the proper proportions where it shouldn't have been toxic, but the Slaben itself was tainted, which is why the problem came in this circumstance. But all this stuff is pre-bottled, right? So if you went to the grocery store and bought 100 bottles of Sprite, and you're like, I'm going to cut this with club soda, right? So you're going to have to open 100 bottles of Sprite and however many bottles of club soda. Then you're going to mix the shit together. Then you're going to put it back in the bottles. They need more bottles, for one.
And you have to reseal the bottles.
And then you have to reseal it. So, I don't know. And, like, it seems like the black market operations are on planet. It seems like with this tea, like, they're getting legit tea, and then on planet, some nefarious shit is happening. You know, that's not necessarily like a black market operation. But
as trying to write a smuggling operation in the idea of lacing tea to try and make a cut and a profit of it is a oddly weird and weak topic or item to choose.
Tiva says
they could have chosen anything.
Tiva says if they cut the tea, they can sell twice as much and make twice the profit.
But again,
really, what they're not selling twice as much. They're selling the same amount, but they're using half the product.
Yeah, because are they taking that half of tea and putting it somewhere else?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, if you're gonna sell 100 bottles of tea, if you cut it with water, or in this case, Slavin, which it seems like water probably would have been a better option.
Right. Like, that's my other question.
What does Slavin do when you cut the product? Does it make? Is it like a taste replacement? Is this like a like an aspartame type of situation where you don't have to use sugar, you use like sugar substitute? Is this like a tea substitute? I don't really know. But you're still going to sell like 100 bottles, but you're only using 50 bottles worth of tea. So you're not selling twice as much. You're selling the same amount, but you're using half as much.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, did they have another, like, 100 bottles lying around to fill up with the displaced
Maybe that's what these guys are carrying. Maybe that's why they can carry, like, a pallet off of these things.
Because it's just empty bottles. Yeah,
so
that's possible.
They're bringing the product there, and they're bringing the empty bottles there, and they're bottling everything together.
Right. Yeah, so this is why I say they could have chosen anything else that didn't require the process of opening a bottle, lacing it with a product, displacing it, taking the displaced stuff, funneling it into a new bottle, sealing the 2 bottles with 1 bottle's worth of substance. And I get also that this is a children's show, so, but all the same, you know, we have products in the Star Wars universe like, you know, spice, right?
Right.
Like, that's innocent enough to a child, you know? It just reminds me of Clerks, the animated series, based on Clerks, the movie.
I did see a couple of episodes of that.
So, the movie Rated R has Jay and Silent Bob selling drugs in front of the grocery store or the convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
When the show went to ABC, they didn't change that initially.
Mm-hmm.
And then ABC execs were like, wait, Jay and Silent Bob are drug dealers? And everybody's like, you guys greenlit this. Yeah, you guys greenlit this. Didn't you guys watch the movie? They're like, yeah, but we just
didn't you watch like any of the movies in the View Askew universe? Like,
right. That's exactly what they are. It's not hidden. It's not subtle. So as a change up to make it network TV friendly, they sell fireworks in the animated series. So I just thought that was a funny switch up.
There are rumors of Mallrats 2 coming out, and I'm kind of excited about that. But to get back to our problem at hand,
right?
You asked where, or you had mentioned something about where this tea product was available. And I do want it to be said that this is Ardy's Beverage, ARDEES, Ardy's Beverage is what it's called. And which is, so on the bottle it has an Auric and a Besh. It's like the A and the B. It just says AB on it, right? Which is kind of funny because here in St. Louis we have a product that has an A and a B on it for Anheuser-Busch. But anyway, this tea is available in 3 places from where I've seen: on Mandalore, on Lothal. I'm guessing these bottles are seen somewhere in Rebels, right? And then on a little place called Batu. So once Galaxy's Edge opens up, steer clear of the tea. Lorenzo. That's all I'm trying
How
to
is
say.
that information? Where is that information for Batu coming out from?
From the Wikipedia article for Artie's beverage.
No. I mean, where is Wikipedia pulling that from? Like, what's the canon source for that?
That I don't know.
Yeah, because just as a note, we're recording this in mid-January and of 2019, and Galaxy's Edge is yet to open. Because Batu, as far as I know, only appears in canon in one of the Thrawn books, I believe. So it is.
So that could be it.
But yeah, I guess I'll have to read it, see if they mention this tea anywhere in there.
Yeah, why don't you continue on past? I think we've beat this tea to death.
Right.
Why don't you continue on past the tea and the sick kids in the hospital? The nurses all look alike in some weird jumpsuits, right?
Yeah, so the doctor takes a look at the tea. He has a fancy little machine. He basically immediately is like, there is Slaben in this. And Padmé or Satine are, they also bring up, they're like, I thought Slaben was safe. And yeah, this is when we get that mention of like, yeah, this one's whatever. This one's not good. It's messing up the kids.
Right,
we'll figure it out from here.
The concoction is wrong. Whatever.
Right. So then, they try and figure out the source of the tea, and they're checking delivery logs. The superintendent takes a look, but tries to also walk off. He's like, "No, it's cool. Like it's fine. Like we got this from reputable places. It's no need to look over here. Don't worry about this."
Yep.
And then is stopped. He literally he jumps in a
he tries to
a little
run.
transport. Yeah. Is basically stopped by Satine's guards, and then they tell him, or he tells them the name of his source for the items, though he is claiming it's still not like the top source. There's like he works through a middleman of some sort.
Yeah, this guy's name is
Sadiq.
Yes.
So he is the employee of a shipping company. He tries to tell Padmé and Satine that what he does is not, he did nothing wrong. You know, he's just taking the product and then delivering it on to other people. Padmé is like, what you're doing is illegal. But he's like, I'm just delivering goods, lady. Like,
can I bounce back to something real quick?
Go for it.
When the superintendent tries to run off and Padmé and Satine grab him, or the guards do or whatever, and then Padmé and Satine go to talk to him, Satine gets like super pissed and she's like, you better tell me what's going on or else. And Padmé is like, whoa, Satine, like chill out a little bit.
Right.
The last 3 times that we saw Satine, she is a pacifist. Like, I will sit here and let you pee on my shoes and not say anything about it because I am anti-conflict pacifist. And she seems to have changed her ways a little bit.
Real quick, yeah, she's definitely threatening the guy. Because her exact phrasing is something to the effect that if you don't tell me, the guards will be less conversational, per se. And then that's when Padmé kind of looks over. So yeah, that's an interesting development. Again, new Mandalore.
I guess so. Maybe that's what new Mandalore means.
Right. Back to Sadiq. He does not care about the children. He is just there to deliver a product and make money. But Padmé and Satine press him for information for where the shipment came from. And he types into a data pad and tells them that it comes...
He's got all the info.
Right. He highlights like a bunch of stuff. He's like, here's a bunch of shipments of stuff that came in recently. And they're like, yeah, we're just looking for... Shit. Right. They're like, we're looking for the tea, dude. So he then narrows it down. It came from Muga, and another shipment is expected to arrive that evening. So then Padme and Satine and more guards then head off to the pier where the shipment will be arriving, and they catch glimpse of the customs officer receiving the shipment. The Satine and Padme and the guards, their presence is not known to anybody else on the dock. But the customs officer receives the shipment and takes the bribe yet again. Padme, Satine, and guards all witness this transaction happening. They go to the police captain. They don't stop any... Yeah?
So I made note of what this bribe was. And it was
go for it.
6 bars of something, which, like, I'm assuming this is like 6 units of some type of credit, right? 3 of them are silver, 3 of them are gold. How much could this possibly be worth?
I'm guessing it's maybe like maybe a
$100.
20 or a 50, if that. Nah, I don't know.
I mean, like say the gold ones are $20 a piece and the silver ones are $10 a piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's 60 and another 30, $90, right? So maybe $100. You cut that in half, maybe $45, right? Doesn't seem like this planet is in that much economic strife for a port authority customs agent to risk their livelihood over $45.
I don't know, man. Here's the thing. Working at a grocery store, people stole some dumbass shit sometimes.
You were a corrupt grocery store clerk and bagger, weren't you?
What's that?
I said you were a corrupt grocery store clerk and bagger, weren't you?
No. What I'm getting at is, like, nobody that we were able to catch stole because they needed something. They always stole because they could. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they thought they had an opportunity, so, you know, they would just slip something into their coat, not because they need, like, a bag of chips. Nobody needs a bag of chips, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they just did it because, like, and it would be like a $2 bag of chips. They would still pay for the rest of their groceries,
you
know. But that one thing, you know, they just wanted to slip in just to do it. I don't, you know, the thrill of it, just to get away with it. I don't know. But
I got nothing.
by and large, the majority of shoplifters that we saw stole just because they could, not because they needed it. Like, there was never a sense of desperation behind the steal, you know.
Okay.
And not to say that all the people we caught stealing stole only a few things here and there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the moment we caught somebody, it would turn real quick. Like, oh, I'll pay for it. Like, no. We're calling the cops now. Like, that's how this works. Yeah. And it was always like, because we had secret shoppers. So one time I felt real bad. The secret shopper was like, there was a table full of stuff that this guy had he had put in a bag, trying to pretend that it was his shopping bag, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he walked. It was a smaller grocery store, and there was literally only 5 cash registers.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one entry in and out. You had to walk past the cash registers, and the rule always was, you know, like, don't stop them until they have officially stolen something, which is if they move past the cash registers, right?
Mm.
So,
and then you say something, but you can't physically do anything to detain them, right?
Not really. The secret shoppers had a little bit more authority than we did, liability speaking. But the secret shopper, like, pulled me aside. It's when I was a supervisor and was like, we'll see. Like, the guy really does seem like shaken up and rattled, but if it's more than like $100 worth of stuff, and he like added it all up, and I was like 102. And the secret shopper was like, "Do I let him go?" And I was like, "You said 100, bro. Call the cops."
I gotta fucking hold you accountable here.
Right.
I have
because there was like a certain. Yeah. Go ahead.
I have 2 stories about
Yeah.
shoplifting.
Yeah.
One of which I just forgot, but we'll go with the other one.
Yeah.
I was at Lowe's one time.
Uh-huh.
Checking out at the counter, and some dude just like rolled straight past the counter and ran out the door. And the guy that was like checking me out goes, "Well, guess that guy really needed whatever he just left with." And I said, "Does that happen often?" He's like, "All the time." And like their policy is, maybe I shouldn't share this on air, but their policy is like they do 0. Like if you want to steal, you load up a cart, you walk out the door, and they just
nuts.
Watch you go.
See, that's just
they're
nuts,
not allowed to try to stop you, detain you, do anything. You just let them go.
Right, because like at least in our case, and I'm sure something similar is happening at Lowe's, where because our store was so small, especially, and especially with a grocery store, we had regulars that you would recognize after like 2 months of working there.
Yeah, I've got a grocery store 2 blocks from my house, and I go there nearly every day for at least something. So I know many of the people that work there, and they know who I am and whatnot.
So the issue is once you steal something, you can't go back there, So that's when things would get interesting, where people who would steal would come back. And then, we can't touch them, but once they're in the store, and if they're like in an aisle, then we can block them in the fucking aisle, just you can't leave. We're calling the cops. You stole last time. We still have that video footage. Like, sorry, bro.
It's so interesting.
Anyways, so that's getting into the psychology of things. I am by no means a psychologist. But in my anecdotal experience of working at a grocery store for 6 goddamn years, when it came to corruption or, stealing or whatever, it was just like this weird mentality that would kind of go around.
The motivation isn't out of need, I think, is where you're going.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It was just people would just do weird, stupid shit for no reason, and I got nothing. People are fucking weird. So, anyway, so they go to the police captain, who does not believe that anybody under his watch would be so easily corruptible. But Padme and Satine are like, "Bro, we saw it," and he keeps denying, which is fucking weird. I
think that he's trying to be. I think he's trying to say, like, I'm a professional, and that shit doesn't happen when I'm in charge, and I trust my guys, and my guys are professional too. Like, I don't think this dude's in on it, right? I think that he's earned his
going
position,
about
and
it,
he's proudful, and he's going to stick to his guns because he thinks he knows the guys that work for him, and they're not gonna fuck shit up for $45, $90, right? But
but when you
Satine
have a senator,
presses him, well, she's the president of the fucking planet,
right? Like this is the thing that bothered me about the police captain saying, like, "No, everything's fine, it's okay." Like you have the head of state telling you that she saw it. Don't question your head of state. So then he reluctantly agrees to go with them and check on
all right, let's head over there.
The docks. And when they go, there are a couple of guards standing in front of a door who are not letting the police captain through.
Well, like, cops are showing up, and there's cops already there, and, like, all this shit.
Right. And they're like, open the door, and they're like, no. And the police captain's like, yo, we have Satine here.
Do you know who this is? It's the president of the fucking planet.
Yeah, it's like, your commander-in-chief.
They're like, great, we'll just attack you then.
And yeah, and then fisticuffs are thrown, and they're knocked out pretty quickly, and then the door is opened, and the smugglers are in there, and they start firing on the police and Satine and Padmé.
We got a shootout.
Can I say that the Mandalorian police unit are really inept? They get mowed down really fucking quickly.
Yeah. The ineptitude is deeper than that. Yeah. So this shootout lasts for a while, and then the captain gets shot and drug out the way, and then most of this fight is this weird like non-verbal communication of like doing that thing that you see in like Army Ranger movies where they're
various hand signals. A lot of hand signals going on. Padmé is apparently fully versed in this hand signal system.
Padmé and Satine, they both understand it. But two Mandalorian guards, I don't even know what to call, like, what are Satine's guards? What do we call them?
The bodyguards, I guess.
Sure.
Because she has, like, there's, like, the police unit, then there are her bodyguards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Royal guards, maybe we could call them.
Yeah.
Mandalorian royal guards. There's, like, this large box shipping container thing that's next to the door, and two of these guys decide to push it in front of the door. And Padmé, like, grabs a dude out the way. Like, that dude would have just been, like, squished by the box. Because, like, they're like, I don't give a fuck. But anyway, they push it in front of the door. And then Padmé grabs a blaster pistol off of somebody. And it is pushed through the door by these guys. Padmé's, like, the best shot out of everybody. She just, like, pops up, like, boom, 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 boom. Everybody's taken out. You know, arrests are made, and then one of the weirdest things of the episode happens. And that's when Duchess Satine says, burn the warehouse.
Yep.
And the captain's
and there's
like,
no
nope, there's evidence in there. And she says, burn it all. And if you don't agree with me, I'm going to make sure the charges are pressed against you because you will be complicit in this conspiracy. Burn it. And then her guards just run over to their little police cars and conveniently have flamethrowers, and they pull them out, walk inside, and torch everything.
Yep. It's very weird. It's a very weird moment, and it's presented awkwardly, too.
Fuck.
Yeah. I got nothing on this one.
Is she trying to cover up the fact that corruption runs from the bottom all the way to the top? And she doesn't want that to leak out to, like, the common populace. Like, this was a breach of her own, like, higher security. Is that what she's trying to do?
That was one part of it. I was also I was thinking that another possibility is that, she just wanted to cut off, like, all supply routes, I guess. And
but that doesn't cut out supply routes. All it does is,
or, like, not supply routes, but, like, meeting space, you know, like cutting off meeting space, but also, like, maybe sending a message like, hey, we just burned this shit to the ground, okay?
I don't think it does.
Smugglers.
I don't think it does any of that.
I'm not saying that is what it does. It was just the only thing I could think of to justify this weird action of burning down literal evidence.
Okay.
So
yeah, I got no answers. I only have questions.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I mean I do too. So basically then we're starting to wrap up this episode. Satine and Padmé, they head off to Almec. They explain the corruption that they encountered.
Mm-hmm.
Almec still doesn't really want to admit anything about corruption and smuggling either, but he does say that he'll investigate further.
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Right. Satine, or afterwards, Satine and Padmé, they're talking on another dock as Padmé's about to get out of there.
Real
And
quick,
Satine
before
says,
that, like during the Almec interview talk, whatever you want to say, Satine does say that she has ordered antidotes to be like shipped to, I don't know, like all fucking
the
schools
kids are
and
fine.
hospitals and
Yeah.
fucking everywhere. So, no
Kids are cool.
children,
Yeah.
no Mandalorian children were hurt in the making of this episode.
Right. So on the dock, Satine tells Padmé that they should probably have a Jedi come as an undercover agent at the academy, and Padmé promises that she will talk to Master Yoda about it.
This, in my opinion, can only be a setup for like the next episode or two episodes from now or something.
It's definitely set up for future stuff, which is, fine.
Mm-hmm.
But from there, cue loud music.
Cue loud music.
That's the end of that.
I thought this thing had about 3 or 4 endings. Like when they torched the warehouse, I thought that was the end. And then when they talked to Almec, I thought that was the end. And then they talked on the dock, and I thought that was the end. And then like the ship took off, and then it showed Satine. Like ship takes off, thought that was the end, and then they show like Satine and a couple of her crew like walking back towards, I don't know, something. And then finally that was the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, cue loud music, man. End of episode. I got a couple of notes on voice actors here.
Yeah, go for it.
Did you pick out D. Bradley Baker in here at all?
No.
So he was like the lead Mugen, Tiva, and he was the superintendent. So totally caught his voice as Tiva. Superintendent, not
Very
so
nice.
much. Tom Kane, who does the voice of Yoda, was the police captain and some random orderly. I guess probably the one that that Satine talks to explain the situation, what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gregory Baldwin. I feel like we've talked about this guy before, but I don't know who he is, so I need to look more into this guy, because he played, in this episode, a whole bunch of people. 3 of which being, like, some Mandalorian that has lines, the customs officer, and, like, a secondary Mugen crewman. So, I think we need to look into Gregory Baldwin, because I feel like his name has come up enough that I remembered it when looking into the credits. But, yeah, so that's what we got. Lately, there has been fewer clones and fewer clankers, which is cool, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you give this one, man?
I'm going to give this one a thumbs down. It's a very light thumbs down.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hate this episode by any means. It's just, by the time it was over, it felt in a not positive way. This episode it felt brisk to me. And, normally that's fine. Like, oh, like, that was a quick episode. Like, but it's just in this one, it just kind of felt meandering a little bit while also moving. It just didn't feel like there was a lot of substance to it.
I can totally agree with you there. This thing moves along at a rapid pace, which the first time that I watched this, I can honestly say I do not remember this episode at all from like my literal first viewing of the Clone Wars a decade ago, right? But in the past couple of days, I've watched this episode a handful of times, right? And the first time I was doing some stuff at work, actually doing some computer work instead of some field work, so I put it on and I was just kind of listening to it and glancing at it, right? And this thing is like rapid fire, moves through the episode, and that's awesome. But when you kind of get into the details of what's actually going on, there's less substance to it.
Right.
And there isn't enough there for it to tip my thumb in the upper direction. And I also have to give this one a thumbs down. I felt like Satine's voice was done by a different voice actress, or like a different acting style or something. Something was off with Satine. And not just like she used to be a pacifist and now she's being like super aggressive. She's like uber aggressive in this episode.
Right.
And why would the president of the planet be in back alleys investigating stuff like this? Now I get it when who's the current pope of the Catholic Church?
Francis.
Okay. And before Francis was Pope Benedict.
Yep.
The 17th or some shit. Either Benedict or Francis, I don't remember which, literally would sneak out of the papal home, the papal residence, and
the Vatican.
Sneak out of the Vatican and go out into the people in the middle of the night and like administer to the poor and the sick in the area. Which when I heard that, I was like, holy shit, that is cool. This is a dude fucking dedicated. Like, that's a guy that
I'm not gonna lie, I've not heard that. I'm gonna tell you right now, if true, it's not Benedict. Benedict was not that kind of Benny was not that kind of pope.
Yeah. So
whereas Pope Francis, he's invited breakdancers over. He pulls tablecloths off of the tables with the cups in place.
Right. You are probably 100% correct. I just know that it is either the current pope or the previous pope. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Right. Not Pope John Paul.
Or PJP2. No.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But, like, when I hear that, I'm like, that makes sense. That is a guy so dedicated to his own faith that he's going to risk life and limb as the president of faith for the Catholic Church to go out and continue doing his own faithful thing, right? But I don't see any president of the United States going out on a secret mission to bust some guys that are tainting some tea.
Yeah, not to bust a smuggling ring, but presidents in battle isn't unprecedented. I don't believe.
In
I don't
current
think anybody
times, I would say that it is.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Modern times for sure, but like go back more than 100 years or so, then contemporary for then might be different. But nowadays for sure, the world of protecting the president has changed a lot. But all the same, like Prince Harry had he was in the military service, right?
Well, one, required military service.
Right.
Two, not president of the fucking planet.
Right. So, but still, and not trying to break up a smuggling ring.
In line for royal. Well, I mean, he is royalty, but in line for the throne. Yes. Not on the throne yet.
Right.
So if when he makes it to the throne, if he is in not even his spare time, but like learning about something that nefarious that is going on within his country, and then goes out and does the investigatory work and the legwork himself,
right,
then I will consider that a common analogy, but not not in the meantime.
Satine even kind of brings it up, though, because she even makes a comment to Padme that was like, hey, when you were queen, you also saw some action, right? You know? So
my notes during this section were much like my notes during the dinner section, and it was, to me, it seemed very flirtatious. Like, I don't know, we have already decided that Satine and Obi-Wan had a sexual relationship, right?
Right.
Or at least I did. I don't know if you agree, but I've decided that. And then Satine is talking to Padme, like, or Padme brings it up like, "Oh, when I knew I was coming to meet the queen of the fucking planet, I didn't know we'd be sneaking around in back alleys through boxes." And Satine is like, "Oh, well, Obi-Wan told me that, you know, this was right up your alley, you know, from when you were queen."
They were friendly. I didn't read it as overtly as that, especially not compared to Satine's interactions with Obi-Wan.
Hey, she never cheers some wine with Obi-Wan, but she did with Padme. That's all I'm saying.
Right. But yeah, I mean, like I said, that they are known to have been friends prior to this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I read into that, sort of. And also Satine just kind of seeing Padme as a strong government agent, you know, sort of thing. And maybe taking cues from that. And Padme just kind of playing into it for Satine's sake, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how I would see that.
So, who would you define as, like, the capital B bad guy of this episode?
The Muggins, I would
just
say.
The Muggins in general?
Yeah.
Not, like, Tiva, but just, like...
Muggins / I don't know, name of the
corruption,
episode, you know?
right?
Right. Yeah, like, the act of corruption is the bad guy. So...
I can call it corruption. I'm good with that.
Right. So, that's kind of how I would define that. But, yeah, like, this isn't by any means a bad episode. It just... I agree. I agree with you. I had no memory of this episode prior to rewatching this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and even after the fact, I know I have seen every single Clone Wars episode. Don't remember this in the slightest.
I've seen all of them at least once, if not twice, like before doing this. And even like some of the episode titles, I know. Like when I heard Grievous Intrigue, like I know what's going on. Brain Invaders, totally knew what was going on. The Mandalorian plot, Voyage of Temptation, Duchess of Mandalore, like I knew what was coming. And then I hear corruption, I'm like, okay. And I watched it and I was like, how about that?
Right.
And I'm not judging this on like a one-time viewing. I probably watched this for this recording 4 or 5 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, if you want a fast-paced, like, start to finish, hit play, you're going to sit there, you're going to watch it. It'll keep your interest. You're going to fly through it, and you're going to be like, wow, that was a quick 22 minutes of the Clone Wars. That's cool. But in the scheme of things, it's not enough to kick my thumb above 50%. So, unfortunately, this gets a double thumbs down from us. But, it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I can say about it.
It's definitely just kind of a throwaway episode, like there's, like we've said, there's just no substance to this episode at all.
I will say that it happens often that like other things later in the universe happen that change my opinion of different episodes. And I mean, I don't really see that being a thing. I know that there's something coming that fed off of this, and potentially it could be next week's episode, because next week's episode is called The Academy. So, I mean, with Duchess Satine saying, hey, maybe we should have a Jedi come and go undercover in our academy, that's
right.
probably what it's going to be.
Right.
And even if that's like the best fucking episode ever,
yeah,
I still feel
all
like
the same.
I could skip
yeah,
this
one. Episode is all the same. This episode is still just so not there that you know, even if a second installment of this is better, then great for that one.
Great for that
right?
one, and unfortunate
Whatever
for this
here.
one, it still doesn't.
Yeah,
you know, it still is
exactly
what it is. So
yeah. All right, that's all I got.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that we have, thumb scrubbed this one down into non-existence or whatever. So, yeah. End of this one.
So our usual shout outs. If you want to get in contact with us, you can email us at notthenerdspodcast@gmail.com. Kevin's in charge of our Twitter at notthenerds. I run our Facebook at notthenerdspodcast. We are available on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play. Also, we always like to give acknowledgments towards our graphic artist who did the cover art. That is Kevin Warren at They Call Me K-Dub on Twitter. And also Lindsay at strangefantasymusic@gmail.com. She's the one who put together the jingle you're at the end of beginning and end of every episode. So yeah,
she's pretty elusive, you know, with only going by Lindsay and only giving us an email address. I am working on getting her on the show, so hopefully that'll happen at some point in time, and I think when it does, it'll be super exciting. But yeah, so next week is The Academy, and that is season 3, episode 6. And I just noticed something interesting about the production note on that, but we'll cover it next week. And until then, I've been Kevin.
Lorenzo over here.
These aren't the nerds you're looking for.
Bye-bye.